Real time travel evidence that proves the multiverse exists. Number 5. John Titor, a man from 2036. In November 2000, a man named John Titor, or however you want to pronounce it, started answering questions on the internet about time travel. The man claimed that he is from 2036 and said that their world was torn apart because of the war between the US and Russia. Only a few people survived, and now he had come back into the past to retrieve some items that would help them rebuild society. He specifically asked for a computer, the IBM 5100, which was never released to the public and was only known to exist by only a few people who actually designed it. He was all over the internet for about 4 months, and then he disappeared. The thing that we gotta remember is that this was a man on the internet. I can honestly say that it is very easy to lie about something like this and fabricate any kind of story you want. His reasoning for the collapse of the world is easy to guess at. Russia and the US have been opposing each other for years. The IBM 5100 thing is a little bit weirder, but how do we even know only a few people designed it without someone being told that? You know what I mean? But it starts to make us wonder if John actually is from the year 2036. Problem is, we would have to wait until 2036 to know that. But that's only 13 years from now. And John was a grown man, so his younger self would have to be alive now. But all we have is a first and last name, and if you've ever looked yourself up on the internet, you know there are tons of people who share your same name. So I guess we will just not know until 2036. But then again, if John came back to change things and he was successful, then we won't ever know because we are now existing in an alternate timeline, an alternate reality than the one John came from. Confusing.
Number 4. Andrew Carlson. This next one is for all my Game Stoppers out there who love that Robin Hood story. I did too. I really did. It sounds like Andrew Carlson pulled a Biff from Back to the Future though. Police arrested the 44-year-old in 2003 when he was somehow able to turn $800 into $350 million over 2 weeks. Like, that's the damn dream, man. Authorities believe that he must have had insider help, which according to Andrew wasn't exactly untrue. Andrew told the court that he was actually a time traveler from the year 2256, and that is how he knew. Obviously, who the heck would believe that ridiculous excuse? But wait, it gets weirder. Andrew disappeared without a trace. A month later, a mysterious benefactor paid $1 million buyout to get him out. On April 2nd, Andrew was supposed to meet with his lawyer, but he had entirely disappeared without a trace. No evidence of his existence could be found before the year 2002. Andrew, can you come back and just tell me how you did that? That'd be great, you know? Anyways.
Number 3. Deja vu. Deja vu is just one of those things that we struggle to describe. Sometimes an explanation of instances of real deja vu comes in the form of short mental time trips to the future. Now you could just say it is an emotional thing, some feeling of I have already experienced this, a close feeling of familiarity for a scene that's just happening. This could be caused by experiencing a similar event that has already happened in your past. You're immediately and maybe subconsciously entering pieces of knowledge about what will happen in the course of the next few seconds, minutes, or maybe even hours based on those things you experienced before, even if they weren't particularly important or memorable. But what about when those details you fill in are impossible to derive from your present knowledge because you haven't experienced them before? So you just know the layout of a city, although you have never been there in your entire life. You know what the person near you will say or do in the next minutes, verbatim sentences for example, which they have not said before. If you ask a neurologist about this, or any human perceptual, mental, or emotional phenomenon, then they will always have an explanation, and it's almost always to do with biochemistry in the human brain. But that answer is boring, and I'm going to go out on a whim here with the other people on Reddit and say that it's you mentally or subconsciously traveling to the future or to another universe to pick up information and relay it back to your brain. Boom.
Number 2, the Nazca Astronaut. Out of all the items on this list, this is the largest example of time travel in history by sheer size. The Nazca lines are located 250 miles south of Lima, Peru, and feature over 70 massive depictions of animals that can only be seen from the sky. But the one we are talking about is definitely either a sign for aliens or time travel. Among the 70 images, there's a strange humanoid figure that looks remarkably similar to an astronaut. Some of the designs from the geoglyphs measure around 30 miles, and experts have no idea how or why these drawings were created with such precision. The astronaut is the strangest of them all. Kind of looks like not only an astronaut, but it looks like it's waving, you know? Weird. Was this an homage to a strange spaceman who came traveling and visited the people of Peru? I personally wouldn't be surprised.
And finally, in at number 1, the plane experiment. Now, we're gonna end today with a real-world experiment of time that could actually prove something here. We are all traveling through time, all of us moving at 1 second per second. Cool. Or are we? According to Einstein's theory of relativity, the faster you travel, the slower you experience time. And this isn't really a theory anymore, since some scientists have done some experiments to show that it's actually true. There was an experiment that used 2 clocks set to the exact same time. One clock stayed on Earth while the other flew in an airplane going in the same direction that Earth rotates. After the airplane flew around the world, scientists compared the 2 clocks. The clock on the fast-moving airplane was slightly behind the clock on the ground. So, the clock on the airplane was traveling slightly slower in time than 1 second per second. So, if that's the case, and this is where I go off the rails, if you were on that airplane when you arrived back on Earth, are you now technically in an alternate time, aka a parallel world? Or were you in an alternate timeline while flying in the plane? You were moving at a different speed of time, so you were experiencing a different time, although slightly. Am I completely pulling everything I've said today out of my backside? The answer is, maybe.